Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wadcast Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Ift. And if you know anything about the show, you know that a lot of the time we talk about CrossFit. CrossFit because the show's about fitness, the show's about health, the show is about exercise, strength, conditioning, wellness. All of those things are encompassed in CrossFit. And, I'm very into my health and fitness, and I thought it'd be fun to do a show about that. And it started out as a show mostly about CrossFit because I was really into it in the beginning. Not saying you all know where I stand on it if you've listened to the show. But some things have gone down in the last week or so, and it's crazy. It's crazy out there. And a lot of people, I'm getting tons and tons of emails and Instagram messages, and everybody's contacting me. What's your opinion on this? What do you think? Look, I'm an entertainer. I'm here to make you laugh. I'm not here to make a statement. I have opinions. Yes, I do, like everyone else. But opinions are like assholes. Some of them are big. Some of them are small. Some of them are dirty. And, I think I should just keep mine covered up. I don't know what I'm saying. And that's the truth. Who am I? Who am I to... Don't take anything I say. A lot of people are going, oh, you called this from the beginning. I didn't call anything. I didn't know any of this stuff. Look, it's, we're living on a rock that's spinning in space. We evolved from apes. We don't know where we're going or where we came from. All I tell you to do is live your life and try to be as happy as you can, and don't interfere with other people's happiness. When it comes to all this shit, I don't like to take the moral high ground because I'm no one to do that. I am a flawed individual myself. When it comes to CrossFit, I've never been devout. I've never been a Kool-Aid person. I've never, I don't like religion. I don't like, I joked about making fun of community all the time. Do I like most of the people I've met in CrossFit? Yes, almost every single one of them. Met great people. Do I like the what it's done for me? Yes. Is it good? Yeah, there's so much good about it. Do I like racism? No. Do I think that Glassman was racist? Doesn't matter what I think. And I'm not ignoring the fact that he said, I talk about it in this episode. So I just don't want to be held to what I say, because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to entertain you. And I wish I could be funnier on this show. I really wish I could. My other podcast, Talking Shit, that's when we get funny. This show, especially right now, it's very sensitive, and I don't want to, you just watch any of the comments on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, and Jesus, it's contentious. So I do have a really good interview today with Jason Ackerman. Jason is, like I said, has been around CrossFit since forever, and has introduced some amazing people to CrossFit. He's owned 3 gyms. He's got every cert you can have in CrossFit. He's written a book. He's got he and Dave Lipson have a company together. So the guy has been around since the beginning. And so I thought he'd be a good person to interview. And as far as you guys, I just want to thank you for supporting me and supporting the show. Who knows how long this will stick around? You never know these days. If you do like the show and you want to keep supporting the show, please go to our Patreon. These are tough times, and every little bit helps. And I'm not joking when I say that. Go to Patreon, donate $5. You could win yourself a Maya Pucks or a Leopard Claw. I need myself a new Maya Pucks. I accidentally broke mine, and I love the thing. I need it all the time. My brother-in-law just had his hurt his Achilles tendon, and he's like, "Hey, I hurt this, so I should rest ice compression elevation." I go, "No, that's the last thing you should do. Do not do that." So So I told him he needs to get a Myopux. You guys need one too. Easy way to get one. Just go to patreon.com/wadcast or go to wadcastpodcast.com/Patreon. Donate $5 a month. That's all you got to do. And you are in the drawing for a Myopux and a Leopard Claw. Myopux is electronic muscle stimulator, and the Leopard Claw is a Graston. If you don't know what those are, Google them. You'll see, and they are awesome, and they will take care of you. Our winner this week, Aaron Photos, is our winner. You will be getting that. We will take care of you. Thanks for the donation, and thanks to everybody else that has given a donation through Patreon. Also, if you don't have any money, I don't fault you. This show's a free show. Do us this favor, please. Go to Instagram and rate the show. Rate, review. Just write the shortest review. It'll take you 2 seconds. You know, I give you a free show every week. The least you can do is just write a nice little, hey, I love the show. That's all you got to do. And we would really, really appreciate it. Other than that, my live dates. I will be performing nowhere. There are no upcoming shows. Isn't that weird? Yeah, tell me about it. So that's why I beg on this show for you guys to give to the Patreon. Let's see, what else? I hope you enjoyed the Elijah Muhammad episode where we talk about, what it's like to be black in the CrossFit community. Pretty interesting. Yeah, we haven't gotten any reviews lately. Any good reviews? Come on, guys, help out. I was just looking at them. Let's get to the show. I think we should do that. Are you guys ready for the show? Let's go with. Before we get to the show, I want to talk to you about a company that is sponsoring the show. That if you are a CrossFit, if you've affiliated or non-affiliated, whatever you are, these guys can help you out. And they are, what are they called? They're not, I'm thinking U.S. Wellness Meats. It's not U.S. Wellness Meats because it's not. It's the Wellness Group. All right, here it is. Right now, you guys might be feeling pretty helpless with the coronavirus still. Getting back in the gym is tough. Anything, COVID-19, whatever, the pandemic. I don't know what state you're in or what situation you're in. If it's, people still are nervous and people feel like there's nothing they can do, but there is. Most experts, scientists, and government officials are saying that we need more testing. But how can you make that happen? As a CrossFit gym owner or a community gym owner or whatever you call yourself now, you have the opportunity to be a leader, and testing's out there and readily available. The Wellness Group is the premier concierge on-site COVID testing company. They've partnered with PMH Laboratories to perform the Abbott Diagnostic IgG antibody test and the RT-PCR test, known as the gold standard in COVID testing. If you want to open your gym, they've opened so many gyms in Las Vegas, I know. They did the Las Vegas Athletic Club and like thousands of people. And it's nice. It's nice to know that people coming in your gym are not sick. So as the country moves forward into these phases of reopening, gyms, CrossFit gyms are still in like phase 3. So the best part about this, you want to get your members tested. It's free for them. It's free for you. It's free for everybody. You know who pays for it? Your health insurance company. If you have a PPO, an HMO, Medicare, or Medicaid, these services are covered and paid for under the CARES Act. Okay? It's paid for by the government. And if you don't have health insurance, you can pay yourself $125. Listen, it's very easy to do. You contact the Wellness Group. I'm going to give you an email. You're going to contact them, and then your employees and members can sign up online on their internal scheduler or your scheduler, show up at the gym, and you have a whole day of You can do testing, test them all. You can find out who has antibodies, who is active with it. You can keep them out of the gym, and the statistics go to the health department, and helps this country, helps us all, helps everyone. So check them out. The Wellness Group can schedule your gym or company's antibody test within 10 to 14 days notice. Boom. Here's what you got to do. Contact the Wellness Group at info@wellnessgrp.com. That's info@wellnessgrp.com, or send me an email at eddyift@yahoo.com, and I will forward it on to them. Just say you're interested in this. Say I'm interested in the testing. I will send it on to them, eddyift@yahoo.com. Let's get to the show with Jason Ackerman. Hope you enjoy this episode. If you are angry about any of the technical problems, it was because we're doing this over Wi-Fi, and we had a little bit of Wi-Fi issues, so there's a couple little staticky things, but I think you can get through it. And thanks for understanding during these tough times, and pretty soon, hopefully, we can get back to my in-person interviews. I told you this episode is with Jason Ackerman, but before we start the episode, I talked to Dave Kalina this week, who is one of the owners of O2 Recovery Drink, which I personally use often and love, and have to get more of from him. I love it. I think it's the best thing out on the market. But Dave and O2 have done something really, really special during these tough times. And I wanted to talk to him about it because I think it's a great campaign, and it shows that, no matter what happens with all this CrossFit stuff, there is a community out there, and it's a great community of people that are like-minded, and they have done a lot at O2 to help out the community, and it's a great concept. And so I wanted to talk to him a little bit before we do the episode. So I thought you'd enjoy this. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Dave Kalina from O2. My favorite energy drink, and I'm sitting here talking to him wearing a Kill Cliff t-shirt that I don't even think it's mine. I found it. It's either Hunter McIntyre's or Tommy Hackenbrook's. I just found it in my car and threw it in the wash and have used it. So
what's funny? So I don't. She might kill me for sharing this story, but our mutual friend Maddie Curley, who I don't know if you know this, she worked at O2 for about a year or so.
Yeah, I remember.
And we flew her into Columbus, which is where we're based, for a few days of training with us.
Uh-huh.
And I shit you not, on her first day, she showed up in a Kill Cliff hoodie. I'm like, Maddie. I mean, there are a few things you've got to be aware of. Yeah. One of which is our competition.
I try not to be competitive with people, but you can't help it. And I'll be somewhere,
sure.
I'll be somewhere, and somebody will be talking about comedy, and for 10 minutes they'll just be telling me about one of my I don't have competitors in comedy, but people that I work with, and they're just like, he's so amazing, he's the best, he's the funniest, and I'm like, all right, I'm right here. So I get it. But you guys have done an amazing thing that I'm very impressed with. That's why I wanted to talk to you. I think it's so cool what you guys are doing. I don't know where you're getting the money or how you're doing this, or how I guess business is good for you guys, but business is bad for CrossFit all around. And you being an owner of a company and a CrossFitter, you were a CrossFitter first. You decided to tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, so we kicked off. Well, I'll take a step back. O2 has been in the CrossFit space really since we launched, and that was a direct result of after I left my corporate day job to ultimately get O2 off the ground. I had to find some way to make ends meet, because it turns out startup beverage ideas don't pay a salary. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I was doing was coaching in CrossFit. And so I started that in 2012, and then O2 launched a couple years later. And when O2 launched, it was really just me out of the back of my car selling O2 to anyone who would buy it at the time. And a bunch of my buddies owned CrossFit gyms in the area. And so I kind of begged and pleaded with them to to start selling O2, and they did initially as a favor to me. Then it did really, really well in their gyms, and one thing led to another, and it kind of took off in that scene. So literally from day one, CrossFit's been a big part of our business. Fast forward to present day, and before COVID hit in full effect, we had about 50% plus of our business was from CrossFit gyms purchasing O2 wholesale from us and subsequently selling that to our members, to their members. And so this is a big, important part of our business. And as you know, COVID came in like a vengeance, and many of our clients, probably 95%, were shut down within the first 3 weeks of March, forcibly shut down because of COVID. And so we wanted to find a way to effectively help them continue to see some upside of retail revenue from their members purchasing O2, except now the gym's shut, their members purchase O2 from us instead of the gym. So we developed a platform to allow us to give 50% of the profits from gym members purchasing O2 online at drinko2.com back to their home gym. So we launched that March 18th, and in the 3 days that followed, we had more online sales in those 3 days than we had in any previous month of direct-to-consumer up to that point.
Wow.
So the response to that was overwhelming. It was really, really positive. And what that showed me was, obviously, people want to help their home gym. People want to help their box owner, And I really, truly believe that the box owner and the gym coaches are some of the most influential people in CrossFitters' lives.
Mm-hmm.
Probably top 5, top 10. And that showed. And so we as soon as we saw the response that we got from that initiative, we reached out to a few other brands in our space that we've gotten to know over the years that we really like. We like their products and we like them as people. And our first partner to come on board and honor that same commitment was Born Primitive, a brand that we've gotten to know pretty well over the years. And they came in and they joined.
What does Born Primitive do? I'm sorry, I don't know.
They did the same thing. So they would honor the same.
No, but I mean, what is their product?
Oh, they're a fitness gear, athleisure, fitness apparel company. Yeah, so they make a lot of good stuff. And they came in and they honored the same financial commitment, 50% of profits back to gyms over the course of the 10 days that they were involved. And then we brought in Tupood, we brought in Peori, we brought in Chomps, and so we had a really comprehensive suite. And Bear Complex was our last partner. We had a great group of brands that were honoring the same financial commitment. And over the course of March and April, collectively as a group, we were able to generate $230,000 to give back to 2,600 gyms that were participating in this initiative.
Wow!
So it's a significant amount of money, right?
What is that? What is that per gym?
It's about $100 per gym is what that comes out to.
Yeah.
And so, and
you guys have your own little stimulus. You're like the government giving everybody money.
Well, I think what we did, to start with was a good start, right? $100 per gym isn't going to keep anybody in business.
No.
And we know that. And so, mid-April, I kind of went back to the drawing board and said, okay, obviously there's a lot of people out there who want to support their gym, and a ton of gyms are struggling. We know that. And we also know that regardless of whether or not the gym's open or closed or whatever, retail revenue only accounts for maybe 10, 20, maybe 30% of what the gym brings in. Membership revenue is what keeps the lights on, right?
Yeah.
And so we were seeing a lot of chatter, just within our own network, group of friends, social and otherwise, of people, gym members who were like, you know what, I'm glad that I stuck around in April. It was cool to support my gym owner then, but I'm not getting a ton of value out of the Zoom calls or the rented equipment or whatever. And so I'm thinking of canceling my May membership. And we were hearing the same thing from affiliates. A lot of people were really, really concerned that, April was tough, but May was going to be miserable in terms of member retention.
Yeah.
And so, so we had an idea that I think is proving to be one of the best things that we've ever done as a company, which was, what if we pulled together a few of the other brands that participated in our coalition, namely Born Primitive, Peoria, and Bear Complex. What if each of our brands offered a $25 gift card, so a $100 combined gift card among our 4 brands, to every single gym member in America that works out at one of these 2,600 participating gyms, one of the 2,600 gyms that participated in the profit sharing program? What if we gave them a $100 gift card just for keeping their gym membership active in the month of May? So we ran the numbers, we looked at what that could look like, and fat math, 2,600 gyms, about 100 members per gym, that's 260,000 people, right? That's a lot.
Is that 2,600 in the United States?
2,600 in the continental United States, yep. So that's a ton of people. And it took a little bit of convincing to, internally and externally, to say, all right, we're gonna effectively give away $25 worth of value to our products on our websites to 260,000 people. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
In fact, the net effect of that, if everybody cashed in on that, that would be about $26 million worth of value. But we said, all right, I think we can handle it. We can handle it from a production perspective. We're still, it's not going to put us out of business financially. It's we're going to be breaking even basically on a sale that we do, with the $25 gift card. And we were able to pony up and make that offer. And when we made that offer in the last week of April, we got more inbound from gym owners and gym members wanting to make sure that their gym qualified to participate. More inbound that week than we had probably the last 5 years combined. I mean, it was incredible, absolutely stunning. We had gyms telling us that initiative was the only thing that prevented them from throwing in the towel. There were a few gyms that were ready to call it quits. We had gyms telling us, to your point earlier, that actually this was more than the government was doing. This was more than the bank had done for them. This was more than anything had ever done for them. And we were floored by the response that we saw from that initiative. And so we made the announcement. We told gyms, tell your members right now that if they stick around in the month of May, O2, Born Primitive, Peoria, and Bear Complex will give them $100 combined gift card, $25 per brand, as long as they stick around for May, and they can redeem it in June. And then here we are.
This is amazing. This is this is like an aspect of the community that, like, I always make fun of the community constantly. I don't do it as much anymore because I have seen so many. It just used to annoy me when everybody was like hashtag community, but it really is in times like this when shit starts to break down and you realize. I was in the Malibu fires, and when I moved to my neighborhood, everybody told me you're in a fire area, it's going to happen. I didn't really believe it would happen, and then it did. And what I asked people was, when the fires happen, what do we do? How do we know? They're like, don't worry. The firemen will come by and knock on your door and tell you to evacuate well before. So day of the fire, my wife's going, I'd seen the fire the night before. It jumped the 101 while we were sleeping. My wife's like, we got to evacuate. I go, how do you know? She's like, everybody's talking. She's like, they're saying there's evacuation. And I'm like, well, are there officially? I don't know. So then I just kept waiting for fire. I got my wife and kids out of there, and then I was closing stuff up, and I was watching the fires. But I kept looking for firemen. They're flying by left and right, and there was no announcement, no text, no nothing to evacuate. There was zero. Yeah. And I started talking to Malibu residents, and they were like, oh, yo-yo. And I said, what's yo-yo? They go, you don't know yo-yo? And I was like, no. They're like, you're on your own.
Oh, shit.
And they were like, there's no government coming to help you. Yeah. There's no, like the firemen can only do so much. They're fighting a giant forest fire, and they do a really good job. And they do whatever they can to, quell this wildfire, but good luck. And I kind of feel the same way. Like everybody sat back, in the United States thinking, oh, the government will take care of us. The government only does as much as it can. And so it's gooder. It's better to be in your small communities, and your communities. I like the what's his name? The dude who's always on Rogan that says, you want to change the world, start by cleaning your room.
Totally.
And the smaller your community and the more you can get involved in that community and work on that community, like I always say, I don't pay that much attention to politics because there's nothing I can do, but I can pay attention to my local politics. 100%. I can have a say in that. And so your gym is part of your community, and you can help it out, and you can do a good thing, and you can keep people together to be working. So I love what you guys are doing. I think it's great. I don't have the connection to the other brands like I do you guys, and I love, I'm not just kissing ass because you're a supporter of our show, but I love your drink. I think it's amazing. I need some, by the way.
I'll ship you a new shirt too, Eddie.
I want a shirt. I'm going to North Carolina, so don't send the drink here. We're about to go on a road trip for a whole month. But no, funny thing is, my father is 84 years old, has a little bit of health problems. He's pretty healthy guy. My mom's not so healthy, and my mom suffers from dehydration a lot, has all kinds of medical issues. And, my dad, I see her shoveling down Gatorade one day. And I'm like, can you stop that? And my dad's like, well, that's what the doctor said to give her. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, doctors aren't the end all know all when it comes. And my dad's like, they're doctors. They know a lot more than you. And I'm like, well, let's just try to get her on something that's going to get the sodium and potassium. And then I just started sending them all kinds of nutritional studies and things like that. My dad's a really smart guy. And he was like, all right, where do I get this O2 stuff?
Nice. That's great. I love it.
So, most of the stuff I say to him goes in one ear and out the other. And I talk to him on FaceTime every day. And I'm sitting there talking to him one day, and he's holding this big can of O2 in his hand.
Nice.
And I just started laughing. I'm like, that's hysterical. I go, where'd you get that? He goes, they sell it at Whole Foods.
That's great. I love it. I'll send some to your dad, too.
Yeah. And I was like, Dad, good. I'm glad you're drinking this. And, and keep up the hydration. So, very important now, with what's going on in people's health and everything.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that people are starting. I've been trying to shovel it down people's throats about sodium, potassium, magnesium.
Yeah.
I'm starting to take tons of magnesium because it's the one thing I supplement. Everything else I want from nutrition. I get my sun, vitamin D out there, and then the potassium from the supplement. And but again, I got to thank you guys. You've just been great. You've been great supporters of us, and you've been great supporters of CrossFit. So, it's a great community, and a lot of people are doing a lot of great things for it. The other companies too, I want to commend them. And so for you guys, if anyone out there wants it, what do they do to take care of this? I mean, you've pretty much reached out to them, right?
Well, so we're leaving it up to the gym owner to reach out to their members with the gift cards. But right, the gym owner's got a lot going on, right? There's a whole lot of other stuff that they've got to worry about. So we developed a website that will allow people to go and look up to see if their gym qualified. Mm-hmm. And if they find that their gym qualified for this, then all they have to do is reach out to their gym owner to get the gift card.
Oh, great.
So
hear that guys?
Website, and we've got about, I would say, 50% of CrossFitters in America qualified for this, whether they know it or not. So I'd encourage everybody to go to communitycoalition.fitness. And once you do, all you have to do is type in the name of your gym, and you'll either see that they qualified or they didn't. And if they qualified, just reach out to your gym owner to get your hands on that gift card. But the gift cards expire on June 25th. We can't have, $25 or $25 million worth of gift cards floating out in cyberspace forever. So visit that website, do it on the hustle, communitycoalition.fitness, look up, see if your gym qualified. And if they did, reach out to your gym owner, get your hands on that gift card and use it up before June 25th.
That's awesome. I feel like I interrupted your workout. You look like you're in the middle of one. You got
It's Sunday, baby. It's Sunday.
You got your Mr. Miyagi headband on.
I know, right? Well, yeah. It's custom Duncan O2 headband. Now I have to go for a run.
Yeah. Well, I got to do that because I got to go take my kids and make them run so that we're going to be driving through the night, so I don't need
fire them out.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for doing the show. Thanks for doing what you do.
Yeah, dude.
And awesome. Thank you. I have to interrupt the show because I want to talk about my favorite thing that I use on my phone. It's called MacroStacks, and it's making me look ripped. That's right. I have free nutrition coaching. I have tons of recipes now that I give my wife. I got a community of people that I can talk to, and tells me what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat, and gives me ideas of what to cook and just nutrition plans. And you all can have it too. It's great, especially during this time. You want a free consult with a coach, a nutrition coach, to help you with your personal situation? Then sign up. You're like, what are you talking about? I'm talking about MacroStacks. MacroStacks. Yeah. They've got hundreds of recipes. Some of them don't require cooking. They got daily nutrition and fitness tips to help you stay on track. They got a private Facebook group with people, like-minded people like yourself, that's going to encourage you, keep you accountable. It's amazing. And like I said, the best part of all, free nutrition coaching with your purchase. All right? Here's the deal. They're offering free virtual consults, okay, with the nutrition coach. If you need help, and I know so many people that need this, so many people are eating wrong, sign up today and you're going to meet your virtual coach. All right? It's a web-based app. That's not like, you don't go to the App Store. You go to their website, macrostacks.com, okay? You're just going to do it, then hold it, save it on your phone, do it on your computer. MacroStacks, S-T-A-X. That's macrostax.com. And they've got a database of over 800,000 foods for tracking. You're going to put in your macros. You're going to know how much protein, how much fat, how many carbohydrates you've had all day long. You're going to be able to figure out what you're doing. And I swear to you, nutrition is like 80% of it. Exercise is 20%. So start paying attention to your nutrition. Go to macrostacks.com today. You want 25% off your subscription to MacroStacks. Enter the code WODCAST, WODCAST. And again, it's download the app. Or don't download the app, is what I'm saying. Don't go to iTunes and think you can download it. It's a web app, so it's not downloadable. The app is not in the App Store. However, it functions exactly like that, okay? So go there again, macrostacks.com, macrostacks.com, enter the code WODCAST. Talking about the greatest ice cream in the world. I'm just going to make another order right now as soon as this is over because it's the most delicious ice cream. Their chocolate is out of this world. Mint chocolate chip, my favorite ice cream there is, mint chocolate chip. Now my favorite mint chocolate chip comes from Real Good Foods. I want them to change their name to Real Great Foods because it's the best, super premium, better for you ice cream. Okay, it's real ice cream, but guess what? No sugar. Well, it's got 4 grams of sugar, 180 calories. Okay, that's like less than a candy bar. That's like 180 calories is like the equivalent of 2 bananas. But guess what? It doesn't have sugar. It uses allulose, which I've been eating cereal with allulose. It's a really, really good alternative to sugar, and it isn't like regular sugar. It's a natural occurring rare sugar, and it's found in things like figs, dates, maple syrup. It's got 1/10 the calories of cane sugar, and very important, no impact on blood glucose, meaning it won't spike your blood sugar levels. That's the bad thing about sugar. It spikes your blood sugar levels. This will not do it. Unlike artificial sweeteners and sugar alcohols, which are produced with chemicals, the allulose in this ice cream is produced through a natural enzymatic process, so it doesn't metabolize like traditional sugar. It's like sugar-free sugar. It's made with fresh cream, fresh milk. It's made with 16% butter fat. My mouth is watering. I just can't wait. Making it it's classified as super premium real ice cream. This isn't fake ice cream. This is real. The pints are only available online at Real Good Foods. They've got all kinds of other foods on there, but the ice cream, go get it. RealGoodFoods.com and in your local vitamin shop. Order a bundle now on RealGoodFoods.com, which includes 5 pints for $49.99 and free shipping. Okay? The bundle includes 5 pints for $49.99 and free shipping. Here's your flavors: chocolate, Tanzanian vanilla, mint chocolate chip, peanut butter chocolate chip, and they got a free limited edition mystery flavor. How about that? If you order now, you get a free limited edition mystery flavor pint and free shipping. So go to realgoodfoods.com, realgoodfoods.com, realgoodfoods.com. Now let's get back to the show. Ladies and gentlemen.
Guy with me.
Oh, always have the dogs with me too. Usually, I don't have them. We drove across country and we didn't bring them. I'm not even going to say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wadcast podcast. It's happening. It's happening right now. Talking to Jason Ackerman. We were supposed to do this a while ago, but you moved.
I had to avoid you. I had to.
I know. I think you left.
I wanted to do the show, but I was like, I'm scared.
I think you moved
the day of.
Was it the day of?
It was very close. We were coordinating a time, and part of it was so many people do their podcasts virtually these days. I didn't realize most of yours were primarily live. So, yeah, we left me there.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was like the only guy that was doing live podcasts because I traveled all over the world on somebody else's dime.
You and Joe Rogan are the last two.
It's the only way to do it. I'm only doing this because of the pandemic, but if you took that away, I can't travel now. I'll be honest, I don't want to be around people. I don't want
I'm the same.
I don't want your breathing on me.
I don't like being around people in normal time. So this quarantine is like normal living for me.
I think everybody's finding that. Everybody's like, wow, I'm more antisocial than I thought I was.
Exactly. That's what it took. If that's all we get from this, I'm cool with it.
I read a statistic somewhere in the UK. They polled people, and polls suck, but something like 80% of people don't want it to go back to the way it was.
I don't want a handshake anymore. I think that should be removed forever. I'd like to be around people a little bit, but I'm okay with 6 feet.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with 6 feet. I'm totally okay with no handshaking, no hugging. I'm fine with that. Never really liked hugs, and except for people that are like close to me. And sex in public, I can still do that.
You can do it discreetly.
Yeah,
discreetly, but
just as long as it's
not a playground.
Just as long as it's with somebody that says it's okay.
Exactly.
But Greg Glassman's having a tough week.
It's been a long week for Greg Glassman, certainly.
Can you imagine what he feels like right now?
In watching my words carefully, but I'm always empathetic for people.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's like, yeah, terrible things have been said or done or whatever, and I can't help but feel for those people. And that goes whether it's someone I admire, like Greg Glassman, or just a bad person. I don't know what that is inside of me. I don't think it's a good.
Tell me about it. I donate money to a charity. I did once. I shouldn't say I donate. I did once. I saw it, and I was like, I got to give money to this because I'm not that good of a person. But I gave money to one of these things to like end solitary confinement in prisons. And I know those are like the worst people in the world, that they've committed atrocities, and people will be out there be like, they need to fucking kill them and whatever. But I just can't think about anybody being kept in. That to me is worse than death. Death. I can't speak right now. That's worse than death. So you might as well just kill them than put them in solitary confinement.
It's funny you say that because I agree. Like, to me, I see some of those movies and I'm like, oh, that guy just raped another man and he's going to solitary, but I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I'm
it's like...
I'm also one of these people that I always think when somebody's a bad person, it's society's fault. That society created that person, and that's why they're the violent person they are, because the violence that was committed on them as a child and the traumatic experience. And people will yell at me for that. They'll be like, no, there are people that come out of that. And I'm like, yeah, that's great that they came out of it. Some people don't. And
do you think some of that is because you're a comedian? I think comedians tend to be the most empathetic people because they just find the humor in everything.
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest jokes I ever did, and I still haven't perfected it, was about Jerry Sandusky. And it was just about how, like, they shut down college football in a week when Jerry Sandusky molested those children. Rightfully so. But the fact that the Catholic Church is still open and they molested thousands of children, like thousands. I read the Attorney General's report. And when I read it, I was like, okay, we need to fly stealth bombers up in the air, and they need to just drop a bomb on every Catholic church in the United States right now. They like, people that will argue for the Catholic Church have not read the Attorney General's report. I think it was the Pennsylvania Attorney General's report. So it's just one state. And it's just one state's investigations. And there are like thousands of these things. And you just start reading them. And it's not like, he touched them in the bathroom. It's like he had a dungeon in his basement that he was like chaining these kids up. Each one you're going, this is out of like a horror film. And the fact that it still exists. So it just, long story short, my joke was about how everybody was talking about killing Jerry Sandusky. He should be put to death because the victims. But I said, what about when the victims grow up and everybody knows that child molestation and pedophilia, it's cyclical. It's like, these kids are going to end up being perpetrators themselves, maybe, if they don't get help. And what do you say about them then? Are you still like, what about the victim? What about the victim? And so in saying that, if you have any kind of empathy for them as victims and why they've done this, what about Jerry Sandusky? Because maybe he was victimized as a child. Like, for all we know, he was brutally, molested by someone or abused. And so to me, that says something about our society. And it all comes full circle in this Greg Glassman thing, where, and I'm not taking sides. I want you to know, I wanted to have you on, and then I talked to a couple other guys that de-affiliated, and I thought we could have a really awesome discussion, civil discussion of like the pros and cons to each side, and I never like to take a stance. I'm very moderate in everything, and I'm never 2 feet into anything. I never commit. I'm 1 foot in, since the first day I CrossFitted, I was 1 foot in, and I never drank the Kool-Aid, but I do love it. I think it's great, but I always keep 1 foot out. Now that's a bad quality, probably. That's a very bad quality.
I think it's open-minded. I think there's some sense that you're not committing to anything. Obviously, you've committed to a marriage, right?
Yeah,
but you're also
sort of.
Yeah, I mean, the right woman comes along, and you got 1 foot out. So.
Yeah. You might be. You're right about that, but it's like I don't know. So I just want to set that precedent because you have to pick your words wisely right now. Did you watch the Andy Stump video?
I have not seen that. I've been sent it by a handful of people, but I've not had the opportunity to watch it.
Holy shit. It's an indictment. I mean, it's and I say that because just what I've heard of Andy on podcasts. He did my podcast once. I wasn't even there. But what I've heard, he seems like a very honorable guy and just a good guy. So I'm just judging his character. I don't know how to say this. I feel like what Glassman said was wrong. I don't want to give too much opinion on this because I know I'm just going to get fucking hammered for it. But is there a possibility that there was an overreaction?
I think the state of the world is in a weird spot, as you know, like we just alluded to. We're locked up, and I think the world is kind of at a point where it's us versus them on every single topic out there, from COVID to the president, to every possible subject. And in my opinion, social media is just exacerbating everything. Yeah. And it gives everybody not only a platform to talk, but almost they feel like an obligation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have a profile, I need to say something about this topic or that topic or whatever's at hand, where it's like, no one cares.
Yeah.
Literally no one cares what you have to say.
I felt like no one cares what I have to say when it comes to like Black Lives Matters. And I've always thought cops could be a little heavy-handed. And I'm always but I support cops too at the same time. Like, I'm very moderate. I'm like, I see the benefit of good policing, and I see that there are great cops out there. I also see that there are shitty ones. I went to high school with a bunch of guys that became shitty cops, bad people that should not have ever been given a gun. So I see both sides of things. And when the Black Lives Matter thing happened, I felt like if I don't speak, the way they were saying me, it was like, you're guilty for not taking a stance. So I was like, okay, I'm posting the thing, and I want to let you know I'm anti-racism, and I fully, but the truth is, it's like Jordan Peterson always says, if you want to change the world, clean up your room first. Yeah. I try to instill in my family the right values. I try to have the right values. I try to work correctly and treat everybody equally, and not dependent on race or any. And I've always felt like that. So that's all I can kind of control. And maybe when I sense racism around me, I can say, hey, that's bullshit. Don't do that. Don't say that. Don't. But it's a weird thing, because in the comedy community, we're like extremely racist on a comedic level. And it's because we're so inclusive. Like, if you watch some of our roasts...
Oh, they're horrible.
Horrible. But we couldn't be having more fun with each other.
What's that expression you comedians have? It's like... We only roast those that we love. Well, there's that, and then it's like, it's not offensive if it's funny.
Right. But if you sit at the Comedy Cellar table in New York City with the comics, you will hear the most horrific things said to each other, and the average person would sit down and be like, oh my God, like, I can't be at that. You guys are... What happened there? Meanwhile, we will be having the best... Like, I miss it. I'm doing the Comedy Cellar podcast tomorrow night, and we just rip the shit out of each other. And you cut as deep as you can. And it's great. You make fun of whatever you see that there is an opportunity to get someone for, and you get them. And if they pause at the wrong time, you hit them for that. I mean, we're brutal. But for some reason, that's why I've always felt like we're not racist, because we're like willing to do that. And I feel like sometimes these people that are virtue signaling are the racist ones.
Well, I think part of it is comedians are, to me, the smartest people in the world, because
minus me. Please take me out of that.
Yeah, I was not including you, for the record, but you go see like, wow, and you have an amazing voice, but you guys are literally just using words and entertaining people. Like, go watch Richard Pryor, and it's like, this dude with just words is making me cry laughing. Yeah. Like, tears. And I think because you're so smart, you're also smart enough to sift past the BS out there.
Yeah. Supposedly right now, in saying that, Dave Chappelle has released a special that he shot in Ohio just this week.
Yeah, it's called 846, right? I haven't watched it yet.
It's supposed to be phenomenal. And I just know Dave. Dave is just a genius when it comes to... There's a bunch of guys out there, Bill Burr, Dave Rogan, Doug Stanhope, that are like literally geniuses, just the way they see the world and the way they... And, we've kind of gone through this in the comedy world, especially on on the sexist level with what happened with the Me Too movement with Louis C.K. and all that. And so we've already been through it. And the immediate reaction, that's why people might get mad at me when I say overreaction. There was an overreaction with Louis. And then it all starts to sift out. And then sometimes, you need to hear, even with, what's his name? Not Louis.
Aziz?
Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, Aziz. You need to hear all the facts before you make a judgment. Aziz was on a bad date.
Yeah.
It was just a bad date. And the girl...
And the world, they tried to cancel him too.
Yeah, this kid... I'm not defending Glassman, and boy, does Andy Stump's video make you go, it's cringeworthy. But, and I think that there were a lot of people who already had a beef with Glassman, and this was just a way to put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I've talked about that a lot on the affiliate level, and I think for affiliates, they were just looking for an out. Like, okay, now I can leave CrossFit, not pay $3,000, and my criticism to that is they don't understand the difference between an affiliate and a franchise. I've said for a long time, affiliates, entitled isn't the right word, because I don't think they're entitled, but they're just, their expectations are extreme for what they're paying for. And I think, like you said, people had a beef with whether it's HQ or specific people, and it's just an easy way to jump ship. Yeah, I mean,
if I were to critique, which I'm going to, where Glassman went wrong was he kind of cut off his disciples. There were a lot of people that went out there singing his praises everywhere, and a lot of them were games athletes. And the guys that have been around forever competed and loved competing. And when he kind of said, we're going to scale back the games and we're going to focus on health, that a lot of those guys felt orphaned. And I've talked to some of them who did feel that way. They're like, we helped build this company. And all of a sudden, we're nothing to him. And so I think there was a lot of resentment there. And this was their, hey, we can continue this because it's moving that way anyway. We're going to do CrossFit competitions with or without CrossFit. So then it's like, well, what do we need them for anyways? Because those athletes, those high-profile individuals are going, we don't need you. I'm so-and-so star athlete. I don't even go into my gym, even if I own an affiliate. It just breaks even. It's just there so I have a place to work out. And, I'm going to compete no matter what. I'm going to make my money from sponsorship or whatever it is. And if you're not supportive of that, well, then fuck you. And so I think I looked down. I happened to get a list of all the D affiliates. I like to call them the D affiliates now. I was just so surprised at how many international ones.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, international affiliates are kind of removed a little bit from this situation, not just what's going on, but even just the racism bit. It's not really penetrated those other countries just yet. Mm-hmm. So if they're de-affiliated, it's kind of I'm jumping what everybody's telling me to do.
Yeah, that's why I think there was when I say a little bit of an overreaction is if you're from another country and it hasn't touched you, and racism exists in a lot of countries. I mean, I lived in Australia and England. I saw it in both countries there. And so I can see how it can affect. But there's I don't know, and I could be wrong, but if you're in some homogenous country where you don't even experience that, but how much is what's happening in America affecting you? And to me, that says either it was a knee-jerk reaction or you're just really into what's happening in America, or you saw a lot of the high-profile people in CrossFit on social media going one way and you jumped on the bandwagon.
Most people do you think we're being opportunistic?
Yeah.
You know, within minutes, they're recording videos, they're putting it out there. And I think, kind of like we alluded to, they have this obligation. There's this new trend of silence is violence. And I don't agree with that. Like, take a pause, breathe. Let's think a little bit. And people were posting, you know, I'm deflating. And because they're high profile, the average person is seeing them and now saying, well, if so-and-so is doing it, I should be doing it. And now no one's thinking. Everyone is just reacting.
I listened to Lance Armstrong talk one time on his own podcast about he said somebody wrote a book about it, about the pylon, about like when a narrative starts and somebody is in trouble, that the public just starts piling on. And I saw it happen with Louis C.K. I saw it happen with, it happened to Lance, definitely. And not saying these guys are right, at what they did, but I've been not a victim of it, but I got in trouble on Twitter once, just got in a fight with Stormy Daniels. And I'm probably left of center as it is. And I was just arguing with her about stand-up comedy. And the next thing you know, like every liberal in the world started coming at me. And even like journalists from the New York Times and Hollywood Reporter. And they were just coming at me for something that it looked like I wrote, but I didn't mean. But no one even gave me a chance to say. I told her to stay in her lane, meaning like stay in porn, don't do stand-up comedy. Not you're a woman, you can't do but it got all twisted into you're a white male telling a woman she can't do stand-up. And I was like, no, I told Jeremy Piven the same thing. I meant like don't use your fame and celebrity to steal stage time from hardworking comics. Like you're not going to go into the symphony and get to play with the New York Symphony. Don't go into the Comedy Store and take time from, really hardworking good comedians because you have a higher profile. And that's all I meant. I could care less if what somebody's sex or race is. And but people just started attacking me. And there was no, like, I couldn't justify myself. I couldn't try to argue my way out of it. It was done. And once that goes, you're fucked.
Well, how do you compare that to what Ari Shaffir went through?
I think Ari made a horrible joke. Like, it wasn't funny. And I think Ari's MO is to, like, say the most offensive thing. We all know that. And Kobe died, and he was like, oh, here's an opportunity to say something really offensive and get everybody to pay attention. And he did it. And all of a sudden, it had the reaction that he did not think was going to happen. And I know from, like, people I know, there were, like, Bloods and Crips threatening his life. Like going to, they had to shut down shows that he was going to perform because people were threatening to come there and take him out. So these are sensitive times.
Yeah, I mean, his joke was next level.
Yeah.
And it was, a death, which is, of course, terrible. And it was a beloved person. So, that was extreme. That was the first time I saw comics kind of be like, that was too far. Because
remember what you said. You said it's only offensive if it's not funny. I remember, like, my first week in comedy, Minnie Pearl died. That's how old, like, how long I've been doing comedy. That was 25 years ago. She was on Hee Haw.
That's the one that hit that high note?
She wore the hat with the tag that hung from it. Remember the price tag still on her hat? And I remember one of my first jokes was Minnie Pearl died this week. And the silver lining is she saved the coroner some time. He just took the tag off her hat and put it on her toe.
That's funny.
But I'm making fun of a death in my very first 5 minutes of comedy. And it's always been, like, people don't understand it, but for comedians, that's how we deal with tragedy. And I'm not going to say Glassman is a comedian. I'm not going to try to. And trust me, I'm not defending the guy at all. I think he was a fucking idiot for what he said. I think when you're CEO of a giant company with many, many people, your words have to be measured. And you can't treat it like I'm this maverick and I say crook shit like Donald Trump, like crazy off the hook. Works for Trump. It's not working for you. Like, there's only one Trump that can get away with shit like that. And he doesn't even get away with it.
Well, I was going to say, at what point the president of the United States is telling people to drink Clorox?
Right.
Right? So at what point are we just like, hey, if the president can say crazy shit, I can. You know, and for comedians, it's like, it takes balls to step on stage with a microphone, and that's it. So the same people that have these tremendously huge balls are going to say ballsy things.
But you know what? You just made me realize Trump has basically divided the country, and he realized I'm never going to get them all to like me, so I might as well just get half.
Double down and get 51%.
Yep. And then as a comedian, it's pretty much the same thing. You go, there's going to be a lot of people that hate what I say, but they're not buying tickets, so I'm just going to cater to the ones that like what I say. And I think Glassman has learned that too, that within his own organization, half of them left and went, fuck off, I'm not putting up with your shit. And the other half are like, hey, you created something great. I think it was no big deal what you said. And so he learned that we live in this like tribal society, and his tribe just cut in half.
For all of that, is it because of, I think social media is at the nucleus of all of this. Sure. Going back to what we said, just because 10 years ago, it would have traveled out slowly. Well, I wouldn't have found out because I would have had to read the newspaper or watch the news, which I do neither of. And it never would have hit me. And if it did, it would have been weeks, months later. But because everything is so instant these days, words are said and people react instantly.
Yeah, it's insane. And, I read your post and I was like right away, I had a bunch of gym owners call me when it happened. And they're like, what should I do? And I'm like, don't ask me. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm like, what would I do? I go, it's hard to say. I'm not as invested as you are in this. And I said, it'd be difficult for me. I know that. And honestly, probably pre this, though, the way I am, I never would have wanted to be affiliated. Like in the last, when I started the show like 10 years ago, somebody said, what do you think the future of CrossFit is? I said, I think it's going to hybridize a lot. People are going to come up with their own concepts. Glassman taught them something great. They all ran with it. They're all going to hybridize it. Everybody's going to do their own thing, where it's just going to become second nature to go into a gym and instead of doing 3 sets of 10 with, bench, back and, whatever you do, leg day, arm day, chest day, you're going to go do Metcons and you're going to do this and your strength and you're going to do all the CrossFit things that they've taught you, but you're going to do it because your buddy just taught it to you. And you're going to do it because you went to a trainer and that's what he teaches. But it's just going to kind of take over the world, and it's going to get too big for CrossFit. CrossFit's going to lose it. And I think that's what's starting to happen, is it's splintering off.
That's the double-edged sword of CrossFit, right? There's definitely a methodology. And what you and I do every day, we probably learned from CrossFit.
Yep.
Whether it was .com or whether you took your level 1. And first of all, the main message I'm trying to get across to the people that are listening is just think about it. Don't make rash decisions. Like, think about what you're doing. But, following that up with, for all of the people that are de-affiliating, you're still doing CrossFit. But the double edge to that is, if everything is CrossFit, what is CrossFit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have a patent on doing thrusters and burpees. But deep down, we know, I don't think there's anyone out there that's doing thrusters, burpees, and adding pull-ups, and like you said, not doing your standard 3x10, that would refer to it as a word other than CrossFit. It's become synonymous with tying functional.
But so is what he did is just brand everything?
It's almost like he branded everything, but then at the same time he didn't. I think his legacy is he showed the world there's a better way to do this thing that you and I have been doing for 20 years since we walked into our first Globo gym and someone showed us a bench press. And we're like, there's a much better way to get better results and faster, and it happens to be a lot more fun. But because of that, I mean, you go to any Globo gym, there's kettlebells now, there's medicine ball now. That is because of Greg Glassman.
Sure.
That is 100%. But now the challenge is really how do you show the world and how do you, I don't know what the right word is. It's not brand, but how do we lay claim to the fact that this is actually CrossFit? And there's some trademarked words. If you're doing 21-15-9 of thrusters and pull-ups, let's not pretend like you don't know you're doing Fran.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a 1 mile run and pull-ups, push-up squats, and another mile, we know you're doing Murph. Where did that come from? It came from CrossFit.
Did it though? Because like Murph, I heard was
that's a good point.
Was body armor, and it was a workout done by Michael P. Murphy, and I don't know where he got it, but CrossFit kind of incorporated that, and CrossFit incorporated a lot of things because like. You've been doing it, I think, longer than me, and you're way, your certs are through the roof. You have certified in every single capacity. So I can't touch what you teach or what you know. But in my 10 years of doing it, I saw my background's track and field, and I saw them pull stuff from track and field. The more people got into it, the more in depth, like I started go into a gym and all of a sudden we're doing my sprint workouts, or not sprint workouts, but sprint warm-ups. I'm like, this is what I did at track practice in college. Like, how do you guys, somebody pulled this in, and it was just this, I always felt like that's what it was. It was a process of, because there was a giant pool of people all as a community online, that there was this cross-pollination of ideas that were coming in. Do we know something that's good? Pull it in. Do we know something that's better? Pull it in. If this doesn't work and this is better, like diets, people, they got rid of the zone diet. They put the paleo diet in. All of a sudden keto came in, and there was this, what's best? Let's, this becomes, and CrossFit kind of laid claim to it because it was a community and they kind of took ownership of everything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can Google and find Coach Glassman saying that. He will say, I didn't create the squat. He kind of created the thruster, I would say. He talks about how he's like, wait, if I squat and then I push it overhead, it's a greater range of motion. If it's a greater range of motion, I'm generating more power, etc. But he's the first to put these things together and then throw time on top of it and quantify it. And, the level of what fitness, where we define fitness, which prior to CrossFit, the definition of fitness was the state of being fit. And, somewhere in like third grade, my teacher told me, hey, don't use the word in the definition. But for years, that was acceptable in fitness. And Coach Glassman was the first to define it. And we end the lecture every weekend by saying, hey, if you have something better than CrossFit, prove it, show it to us. We're not married to CrossFit. We're married to the results. And there's been nothing that's come along that's given more people more results. But
and I agree with you, but there has been things brought in from jiu-jitsu or from wrestling or from, gymnastics, or things keep coming into it to make it better. So, like I say, the laying claim to it. And it's just, CrossFit's like an amalgamation of all these things that work. Like, it's just not, it's, hey, well, that looks good. Let's bring in the, what's the machine that they started bringing? Just so many things that they then became CrossFit, like the C2 rower. Like that's for rowing.
Right. That existed since the 70s and all this, and the definition of CrossFit is constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. So within that is exactly what you're saying, functional movements, because functional movements are natural. So we couldn't have created them because they're natural. It's like saying, hey, I taught my dog how to wag its tail. I'm a genius. No, dogs have been wagging their tails for hundreds or thousands of years. Like just because you taught your dog how to do that doesn't mean you created this. And CrossFit is the same thing. I don't think anyone is saying we created it. Again, it goes back to the fact that I mean, we're doing the same thing for years, but until someone said, hey, go do this workout against that person, it changed our perspective of what exercise is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sure, we had egos on the bench press, and we wanted to bench more than our buddy.
Right.
But it wasn't a competition day in and day out. And that's something CrossFit added, which is really intensity.
Yeah.
Right. They said, hey, if we do this for time and we try to get better, now all of a sudden we have intensity, we have power, we can get better results.
Yeah. So you're up to your L4 cert, is it?
Yeah, so the level 3 is the first certification, right? If you have your level 1 or level 2, it's technically a certificate course.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my level 4 certification, which technically calls you a coach.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. I mean, the word coach can be thrown around. Everyone that is box calls their coach. Lower is the credential that say, now you're a level 4 CrossFit coach. Until then, you're a trainer.
So level 4 is how much do you have to go? Is it just a weekend?
So currently the way it works is you attend your level 1, and when I say currently, it's outside of pandemic times.
Yeah.
You attend your level 1, and there's a test at the end of the day, and if you pass it, you can call yourself a level 1 trainer, and you get a certificate in the mail. Then anytime really, but we recommend 6 months or so, take your level 2, which like your level 1, you show up, but this time you're teaching other people, you get feedback, and the level 2 test is actually at home. So you go home, I think you have a month from the day it ends, at home test. So, it's a little bit easier maybe, but at that point you're just a level 2 trainer. And then your level 3 is a certification. And the reason your level 3 is a certification is because you show up and take. So by definition, a certification has to be non-attached to a course. You literally just show up to a place, sit down on a computer for 4.5 hours and take a test. And the level 4, which isn't out currently, you show up and you coach and you get feedback, and it's a pass or fail based on your performance. So it's a performance evaluation.
And you just kept going. You were like, I'm not stopping. I'm going to get every certification they have.
When I started CrossFit in 2006, and then I did my level 1 in 2007, I was just like, fuck it, I love this. This is what I mean. I was ready to, probably much like you. I never had a real job. I wasn't a comedian. I was teaching people. But in 2006, I was done. I was training middle-aged women, and I was sick of it, hearing about their shitty lives and their shitty husbands. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I have a master's degree. I was going to go use my master's degree for a psychologist, and I found CrossFit, and I was all in. It changed my life, and that's probably...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Was that in Florida?
That was in New York.
Okay.
So I was living in upstate New York, and my three affiliates were all in upstate New York: Albany, Clifton Park, and Saratoga.
When you were at Albany, was that where Austin Malleolo was?
Yeah, I was his first boss. So I met him. He was dating a girl who lived in Clifton Park, which is 20 minutes north of Albany, and he would stop by every weekend and just work out. And we're like, who the fuck is this guy? Because at the time it was like, we thought we were fit, me and my coaching staff. And then you get a guy like Austin. Like, I remember the first time I met him, we did Grace. And I was like, I got like a 5-minute Grace. That's pretty good. The dude did it in 90 seconds.
He did it in what?
Like 90 seconds.
Oh, God.
And this was after he had just done the Filthy 50 workout. So Filthy 50 will leave you on your ass, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets up and does Grace. And we were like, I remember we were such assholes because we watched him do it, and we were like so jealous and just envious of him. We're like, well, he's not really locking out, so that's why he got 90 seconds. But meanwhile, he turned into a beast, and he graduated college and he moved in with his girlfriend there. And I was like, I want you to work, and because he's such a stud, it was a matter of months before Reebok came and like swooped him up from me. And
you had 3 gyms.
Correct.
Why 3?
Well, if one is good, 3 is better, right?
So it was like one was doing well, you open another, and then you open another. It wasn't open one, close one, open one, close one, open one, close one.
No, I mean, there's actually first 2, and then opened my third. So I had 2 at one time, and then I opened my third in Saratoga. I sold my first 2, and I was like, cool, I made some money. I don't really need to do anything for a while. And you've probably performed in Saratoga.
Yep.
It's like a pretty wealthy town, and there was no boxes there. I was like, I could make a killing up here. And I was like, so when I sold my 2 boxes, I had a non-compete for 15 miles, and Saratoga was just outside of that. So I was like, I can make a killing. I learned a lot along the way, and I had to open my third box, and it did phenomenal. And I wound up selling that one too. And
why'd you sell out of that one?
I sold that one because I've moved to Florida.
Why'd you move to Florida?
Because I'm Jewish and I was getting old, and that's what you have to do.
And now you're in Boulder.
But yeah, and I'm in Boulder because I got married and my wife wanted to live here, and I've learned that's the most important thing is making her happy.
You know what I did? As soon as I married my wife, or before I married her, I said, I know all women say whatever they say before they get married, but after you get married, when you have kids, you all try to move to your parents. And I said, so I just want you to know right now that I will never, ever, ever move near your parents. Like, don't.
Where's that?
Her parents are in Lake Norman, North Carolina. You know, we live in LA. I'm right now sitting in Lake Norman, North Carolina. Because we lost it during COVID because we have the 2 kids at home all day long. My wife's like, we're going to North Carolina. I'm like, okay, let's go. I need your parents' help.
Yeah, we're the opposite. My parents, so they moved to Florida, and I did shortly after. And I hadn't lived near them since prior to college. You know, once I left for college, I was always at least 2 hours away. But I think my wife was like, okay, I can't live near your parents anymore. We're going across the country. We need a 2,000-mile buffer.
So what are you guys doing now? You're doing like an online nutrition thing?
My wife runs our online nutrition company, Own Your Eating, and I work with, I'm sure you've heard of Dave Lipson and Camille LeBlanc.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Dave and I are partners in a company called Thunderbro out here in Boulder. And that was the other reason. My wife wanted to be out here, but they lived out here, and it was just a whole lot easier to run this company being near each other, than working from a distance virtually.
And what's your company?
Thunderbro.
Yeah, and what is it?
What is it? It's kind of a blend between bodybuilding and CrossFitting. So
a hybridization.
A hybridization, exactly. But more so geared towards bodybuilding. But we do throw daily conditioning in there. But plenty of people just follow the bodybuilding. I mean, Dave had a really beat up, hurt back, and he used bodybuilding, with functional movements to heal himself. And like most people, small businesses this where he tried to sell it to the masses, and with Dave's personality it quickly took off, and he was like, hey, I need a partner to help me grow this thing. Going back to, you're Jewish, like, you must be good at business, come on and help me. So I hopped in.
Well, that's awesome. And but it's like funny because you're completely supportive of CrossFit and you think it's stop and think a little bit, but like even you guys at a certain point went, hey, we can go off and do our own thing, and we don't need to pay this $3,000 affiliate fee.
Yeah, I mean, there's validity to what you're saying. I mean, I guess we're truly not marketing it as CrossFit, and we're not in a brick and mortar. We're a virtual company, right? So we do virtual programming, but we certainly give credit to CrossFit. I mean, sure. Dave worked on the CrossFit staff for a long time as well. He only left because the company got big. He had left about 6 months ago, and he just didn't have the time nor the desire to travel. His wife's pregnant now. But he's had a little beef with some of these other people that clearly made their mark off of CrossFit and then turned their back. And I'm talking years ago. I'm a big fan of Rob Wolf, but let's be honest, CrossFit is what took him to the next level. I'm a big fan of Kelly Starrett. I still watch his videos. I still do my 10-minute squat almost every day. But people turn their back on CrossFit, right?
Well, to argue for them both, because I'm friends with both of them, I think the feeling was mutual, that the back was turned on them or they were confronted. There's been a lot of people that have started to make money off of CrossFit. And I am not one of them because in a sense I make money off CrossFit to some extent in what I do.
We all do.
And they have not come after me. But many people that were making money off CrossFit came to and went, what do you think you're doing? This is ours. You can't make money doing. I mean, they just came to us with, we got it for terminology. You know, the lawyers hit us up. You can't use CrossFit's name, or you can't use this, or you can't say that. That's patented, or that's trademarked. And I was like, fine. And the truth is, like you hybridized, this show hybridized. Like I was totally about CrossFit in the beginning. And then as I evolved and I got more into, you know, mountain biking and endurance running and doing all kinds of crazy shit and into my nutrition and health, I started looking to other places other than CrossFit. So I was like, okay, there's way more to my world than CrossFit. And to be honest, I do feel like I think CrossFit as a methodology is great. But as I get older, I cannot do CrossFit at the level that I see it done in a CrossFit gym. And I'm just like, I got to take more breaks. I have to, like, as far as days, and I just can't hit the intensity that I did before and some of the movements. And I know Pat Barber would argue with me, then you're not doing the movements right. You're not doing CrossFit the way it's been taught. Because you could. And I'm like, I disagree. And so I moved away from it. And I think people like Kelly and Rob Wolf felt slighted themselves. Like they brought a lot to the table, and then it was kind of stripped of them. And they're like, well, and I don't want to talk for them, by the way, but it sounds like I am.
No, and I can understand where you're coming from, and I don't know the behind the scenes, and I know there was probably some back and forth, and you know, what are they? You know, there's two sides to every story, but you know, let me maybe rephrase and say they at least got their jumping off point from them, as did many of us, and for the record, I truly respect them. Rob Wolf changed my thoughts on nutrition, which ultimately led me to start my nutrition company. And Kelly Starrett, just last night I was watching his video on his nighttime routine. So two people I look up to. Now let me go back to what you just said, because I agree and I disagree. I'm the same way. I'm 42 now. I had a birthday during quarantine, so I don't know if it counts.
Yeah.
Because
no. You're 41.
Nothing happened. But I'm the same way. I'm like, man, this shit hurts more than it used to. But you know, to drop a little knowledge from the level one again, we talk about intensity. And one thing we say is intensity is relative. And we say intensity is relative to physical and psychological tolerances. And so many people, kind of like sounds like what you're doing, and I used to do, lump that into like, hey, my physical and psychological tolerances never change. We only look at it as, hey, Eddie is this, that, and grandma is that. Where your physical and psychological tolerances change on a day-to-day basis. So Pat Barber is saying, hey, you can do Fran, but you have to remember your 3-minute Fran came at a point where you weren't in quarantine, where your kids didn't keep you up all night. So your tolerance today is a little bit different than it was yesterday or the week before. And that's one thing that I really, probably for the last 2 years since I turned 40, was like, you got to leave your ego and you got to forget what you did when you were competing against Austin, because you had a games athlete next to you and you were 10 years younger. And for me right now, when I hit a CrossFit WOD, probably 2 days a week, it's like game time. And the other 3 or 4, I literally just convinced myself to start. I'm like, you don't have to get a PR today, but naturally I start to move a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's,
you know, so
yeah.
With that being said, hop on your mountain bike, go for a swim, do some yoga. But I hear a lot of people out there that it's like, oh, CrossFit's too intense and I'm getting old. And it's like, you are getting old. That is the problem. But the bigger issue is you're remembering what it was like when you were 20.
It's a good point. It's a very, 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 very good point. I don't know. I've talked to a lot of like high profile people in the last few days. And, you know, some people think that this could be the death of CrossFit. And I just that it's finally like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And to lose 2,100 affiliates even though that's not their cash moneymaker, the certs are, it's still, that's hemorrhaging. You know, that's...
Can we be clear on what a disaffiliate is, though? Because, okay, so for the record, affiliate dues come due once a year, right? So if I paid my affiliate dues in April, other than the fact that I'm writing on some Google Doc, I'm no longer an affiliate. You know, you basically have until next year to decide, am I going to pay this or not? So, you know, laying claim to the fact that you're no longer an affiliate is not really being honest.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but here's the problem. It's like sometimes we cater to those that bitch the most. And I remember seeing something when I lived in England. There was a TV show that got canceled because they used a foul language or something in it. And they said 20 million people watched the TV show, and 11 people called the BBC or whatever it was and complained. So they pulled the TV show. And the argument was 11 people were upset, but there's 19 million some people that didn't complain. There's 19 million people that aren't going to complain if you don't use the language, the bad language. They're not going to be like, hey, you didn't swear enough, or hey, you didn't use that racial term. So, but we always cater to the squeaky wheel, or the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So you've got this, as a gym owner, as a box owner, you've got some clients who are watching this and observing it on social media, as all CrossFitters do. And they're like, hey, you know, our great leader, our grand poobah, you know, has said some racial shit, and, you know, I'm into this movement, and, you know, what are you guys going to do about this? You're not going to have people coming to you going, hey, we got to stick with CrossFit. You know, like, okay, you know, who cares what this guy said? You're not going to have the other side. You're just going to have the squeaky wheel. So as an owner, you're like, well, I just got to attend to the squeaky wheel people. I have to, because they're going to keep complaining. No one's going to complain that you. No one's going to complain that you. They're going to complain that you didn't leave. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. I don't know if I'm making myself. I'm not making sense, but the voice of the angry clients is just going to be. This is what I've heard from gym owners too. They're just like, my clients are coming to me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Whereas the people that don't give a shit aren't going to call you and talk to you about it.
I think typically that's true, but I also think this is such a polarizing and important time in the world that the good clients, the clients that support you, are reaching out. I think a lot of times it is that. You got a member at your box and he's rep shaving. All you're going to hear is bitching. You're not going to hear the 99% of your members that don't give a shit that someone shaves off 3 reps. Mm-hmm. But this is so important that I think you are getting the support. I am hearing from a lot of boxes. Now, you're not getting, you're right. The complainers are going to speak louder, mm-hmm. but there is more support than usual right now. And I think, you know, going back to everything, I think what people need to realize is just because you created something doesn't mean you are it anymore. You know, CrossFit is not one person. And that's a hard, it's a hard thing for their head.
Yeah. Well, but I see people's complaint. I see people being upset with Glassman. I see CrossFit's idea, like him stepping down, resigning. I get it, but like they say, he's still the owner. It's not like he divested, but he doesn't have to. Again, it's a private company. It's not a public. Like, you're an affiliate. You're not an owner of this company. That's his company. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, but I have the freedom to do what I want, so I'm leaving his company. You know, I don't know Castro well enough to know how he will run things or what he will turn this into or where it will go or how much freedom and autonomy he has. I
will say this. I do know Castro well. And if there was like, hey, who on this planet would you put in there? It's Dave Castro.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's my opinion. It's not. I've worked.
Can you say that again? You froze. You froze up. Can you say that again?
I just say it's my opinion.
Uh-huh.
It's just my opinion that he's going to do a phenomenal job. Look, he's a former Navy SEAL, and he's just you have to move past the game's persona, right? You have to kind of move past that. It's a character. Like if you watch wrestling, if you watch MMA, there's heels, and they're doing it for one reason. It gets publicity. It gets them more money. And I have no doubt there was a part of that in Dave that's like, I'm going to create this character that really allows me to grow this thing, and it worked. But I mean, I heard him on the call the other day, and he was just exemplifying what it is to be a leader. He's not a hothead. He remains cool. I have a funny story about Dave. We were working the games, and this is probably 2011 or 12. There was a push-up in like the final event, and there was these. You ever see those old soccer kind of scoreboards where you flip the number?
Mm-hmm.
And I was in charge of all of the equipment on the competition floor, and those flip things didn't make it out because he would always turn the events over so fast. And he's yelling at me, Ackerman, go get those flip cards out. So I rush in between the first two heats and get like 6 or 8 of them out. And we're watching the next event and realize those things are in the way. The judges aren't reacting fast enough. And he looks at me and goes, Ackerman, get those things off the floor. And I was like, and I just, I've learned with Dave, it's like, don't question. He's the leader. And, for the people that don't know Dave, it was like a blip on his radar that day. As well as mine. Like, I didn't quite it. But the next morning, the day after the games, after this after party that goes all night, I got an email in my inbox that said, thanks for being so cool, or thanks for handling that situation so well. I'm sorry I lost my composure. Like, that's a leader.
Yeah.
And people don't see that about him. People see the boasting and the open announcements and, his Instagram. He's a good dude, and he's a hard worker, and he's got a level head. I truly think this is what's going to take CrossFit to the next level.
Well, I mean, I've heard that argument that if when it was run well, Dave was running it pretty much, and also to argue on Dave's behalf, when I saw, when I used to watch the games, I used to think, and I've run events before, done events and things, or just producing film or producing comedy shows, how hard it is. And nothing I've ever done has been on that level where everything has to hit so many different moving parts for so many days, and how precise it was, and how many things could go wrong and how many things did go wrong. Just the level of things going right to things going wrong, the ratio was it was amazing. And I will bow down to him in that, running that thing the way they ran, and the media department. I also commend the media department to creating this just like awesome media experience from scratch. It's not like they hired production companies to come in and shoot all this stuff for them. It was incredible. So what Dave did was incredible. Andy Stump's argument is that everybody that allowed Greg's behavior to go on behind closed doors, and he's mostly arguing that he's not talking about Greg being racist. He says Greg is not a racist from his experience. He said that Greg's behavior with women is the problem, and the way he's treated women, and that everybody that was around that allowed it to happen is complicit, including himself. And he said, you've got the person that's closest to him is Dave. And for Dave to be moving forward and leading the charge, the guy who knew Greg's behavior more than anyone. And it was I'll tell you what, because I started to go, everybody could be overreacting, blah, 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 this is... And then I saw the Andy Stump video, and I was like, whoa, wow, this is, and it just didn't seem like, when things happen and I talk about a pylon, sometimes there's disgruntled employees that are like, this happened, my time to get them. I just don't feel like Andy Stump was like that in what I saw. I mean, it's interesting. You got to watch. I started watching the video. I thought I'd watch like 2 minutes of it. It's like, an hour long or something. And the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, my God. So, I was talking to a friend about it, and he's like, yeah, every company has bosses like that and assholes like that, or, but that has nothing to do, their character has nothing to do with their company. And CrossFit seems to me to be a little different, because there is a little bit of like, it's almost like, I don't know, like a coach of a sports team or the military or something. And when it comes to leadership, when you start getting that big, you better really have, all your, they're going to come at you from all sides. So you better.
I get what you're saying. And at the same time, for this, at the end of the day, CrossFit, classman 74, right? That's what's on the Reebok shoes.
Say it one more time 74. We lost because of the signal. Just
let me switch my Wi-Fi again.
Okay.
I'm on my good one. This is my good Wi-Fi in Boulder. So, Coach Glassman started his first workout in 74. That's why it's on Reebok shoes when you see the number 74. But it, I would say it became a company in around 2001. February 10th, 2001, CrossFit put the first workout on .com. And obviously not excusing any actions, alleged actions, whatever. But really, CrossFit is still in its infancy. Mm-hmm. And I think they were learning a lot of this along the way. Yes, there's no excuse for certain behaviors. But at the same time, all of this was just kind of growing slowly. So, again, I don't want to act like I'm making an excuse for any behaviors, but when I opened my box in 2007, it was a turn party. Like, we were partying, we were doing shots of tequila in between workouts, we were, doing crazy stuff. And then at somewhere along the way, we were like, hey, we should have an HR handbook. We have 20 employees all of a sudden. Where'd that come from? And we had to kind of change that. Yeah. And I think, for what you're saying, it started off as just this little thing, and it escalated till it had to be professionalized. And you should be a good human being, regardless of your company is in its infancy or you're a well-established business. But I think for a lot of things, it's like, hey, we're growing. So a lot of the complaints out there, it's like, we're learning at the same time as you are, whether it's about the games or whether it's about how to handle affiliates or, whether it's about should we have regionals or not. It's in its toddler stage still. These big companies that are being compared to have been around for 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right about that, because I've been in situations and companies of my own and stuff where it's like, yeah, and as it grows, you start to go, hey, we got to take this a little more seriously, and we can't do what we used to do. And, you start all of a sudden, you start having to pay taxes and start having to
pay taxes.
No, but I mean, like, yeah. You have off the books workers in the beginning and interns, and the next thing you know, they turn into a full-time employee, and you're paid, and then you've got to pay their unemployment insurance, and next thing you know, you've got real employees, and then you have situations where you could be sued, and you can't say this, and you can't do that. And the bigger it gets, the more professional you have to be. And when it came to the tweets and stuff like that, I know Glassman's a maverick, and Glassman decides, he's going to do things the way he's going to do them. When he quits social media or whatever he does things that people go, that's not a good business decision. He's like, well, I've gotten this far making the decisions, so who are you to tell me? And it's like, okay, which this could be that too. But in my opinion, no, you can't. And I know from speaking to some very, very big sponsors that don't sponsor. And you're like, why don't you guys? You guys should be, seems like it's right up your alley. And they're like, he's a loose cannon. And you're like, okay, I see that. Yeah, I can see why you as a corporation are afraid of him. And this is just another indication of that. Like, this is so, I mean, if he's retired, I think he's retired. Like, it's no, I mean, here's the guy that created this amazing methodology and something that grew into something amazing that all of us have been a part of. But, you know, as far as it goes, I think it's the end of Greg Glassman as far as CrossFit's future. I mean, I think this is it. I think he goes into retirement now. As much as he said, I don't see him coming back into the fold. A lot of people are like, well, he's going to be running it behind the scenes, and that's the problem. I don't think so.
Yeah, and I can't speak for him or Dave, but knowing Dave, I don't think he would have accepted the position if that were the case. I think he would only have accepted the position if he's like, I'm in charge, I get to make the decisions.
And it's weird. I saw Froning talk about his. Did you see Froning's social media post?
In regards to him programming for the games?
No, before that, when he said, you know, I cannot be involved with this. You know, it seemed to me as I was watching, it's funny enough, I was in Cookeville, Tennessee. We were on our way driving across country. And it seemed to me that Greg was de-affiliating, that he was saying, I don't put, you know, I don't condone this behavior, and we are all about equality and CrossFit mayhem, and we don't want to be a part of this. And then to hear Rich Froning is going to be programming the next games, I was like, wait a minute, so the door's open for people to come back in?
I was frustrated at the haste that people acted on for de-affiliating, but I think it was the catalyst for change. And, you know, like we alluded to earlier, you know, these people were being somewhat opportunistic, in my opinion, and also protecting their own brand. You know, and without those people, we wouldn't have seen this change. Like, there needed to be this community, you know, ironically, the same community that he built is what caused him to step down. But I think they wanted to change. And people, that was enough. Like, maybe for Rich it was, but for some, it wasn't. And it's really, that was a bit, you know, I think people have to realize it was like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
You know, this is 5 or 6 years ago, the company was valued at $34 million. It's grown since then. You know, how many companies react in 2 days and replace the CEO? I mean, that was a pretty fast movement, and I think that was an indication to the community that we're trying to listen to you and we're trying to do something.
Yeah. I think you're right, though, about social media having too much to do with this, that it's so, like, the trickle down would take years before everybody in the trenches would hear anything about this. But because of social media, it's immediate. And so people's reactions are immediate when they should be tempered. There should be this, let's slow down, let's think about this, let's evaluate, let's get all the facts, and then let's make our decision. But because social media and everything just starts moving so quickly, there's knee-jerk reactions, and people might regret the decisions they've made. They might, you know, something might evolve from this. You might end up with some other form of CrossFit. This, you know, all the affiliates go off and do something. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But
that goes back to my statement earlier. They're doing CrossFit then.
Yep.
You know, and in your statement where it's like it's a hybridization, and I had a conversation this morning on our podcast where we're like, to some extent, that's CrossFit's fault. We've kind of just created this thing, and because we haven't defined it perfectly, everybody do it.
Well, you know, I can again make the analogy to comedy, or I have a joke about, can you separate the art from the man? And it's like, can you still watch Bill Cosby and laugh at Bill Cosby? Knowing what Bill Cosby's done, knowing what a horrible person Bill Cosby was, you know, and the women that he hurt and the things that he'd done, can you still watch The Cosby Show or any of his comedy or Fat Albert and laugh at it? And it's weird because comedy, you really can't. It's difficult to watch him and still. But then you look at someone like Michael Jackson,
Well, that's the analogy, right? You got Michael Jackson and R. Kelly.
Yeah. Can you still listen? You can still listen to Michael Jackson's. You go in a nightclub, they're playing ABC, and you're on the dance floor. ABC, yeah, it's easy as one. Two,
is it because we forgive him, or just because he has better music?
Well, I mean, like my old partner from my podcast, Jim Jeffries, used to do a joke about something sort of like that. Like, how good do you have to be that you're allowed to touch kids? Like, how good at what you do that you can get away with? And I don't think that's it. I think there's a little bit of like, people always thought Michael Jackson was fucking nuts, so they were like, oh well, that's we just imagined he could do something like that, whereas Bill Cosby fooled everyone. And so with Glassman, I'm trying to use that analogy, like, can you separate the methodology from the man? Can you then say, hey, I love this CrossFit, what I've learned from it, what I've taken from it. Maybe the guy who created it didn't do all the greatest things. I mean, like, you look at Bikram of Bikram Yoga. That guy was known to do, way worse stuff.
Way worse, yeah.
So, but people are doing Bikram yoga every single day all over the world.
And just because you're calling it Hot 26 doesn't mean you're not doing Bikram.
Good point. So, are you able to separate the methodology from the man? And
not to stick on Michael Jackson, but I do love Man in the Mirror.
Yeah,
I think part of it is he was never found guilty of anything. Like, we all know, and we all watch Finding Neverland or whatever. We're pretty convinced, but I think without that, like, hard evidence.
Yeah, but neither was OJ.
That's true.
Nobody loves OJ.
But that point, hey, that's a really good point. I don't know. I think maybe because he was found guilty on a civil level, that changed things, and there was blood on his glove and in his car. So it's a little different. And yeah, I don't know. That's a good point.
I don't know. I'd love to. I'm gonna contact Glassman in a good time and ask him to come on the show. I want to talk to him. I want to see where he's at. I want to see what. I was always we had gone back and forth with him a million times about doing the show and just couldn't. I wanted to do it in person. Same with Dave, and Dave and I were scheduling something recently, and so. It's going to be weird. It's going to be really, really, really weird. And every day it's like new stuff comes out and you're like, oh boy. And who knows? The next week or so you could have other people coming out with other claims and other things. And you and I are both going to be like, whoa, we didn't know that, or everybody could start looking at him and going, wait, this is all bullshit and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't do this or he didn't do that. When it comes to like the Floyd 19, first of all, I think COVID's serious, and I definitely think the Black Lives Matter thing. And I'll take a stance on this, that as a leader of a company with many, many employees and many members, you don't do that. That's a Donald Trump trick, and it might work for him, but I don't appreciate it that Trump does it. So I think he fucked up there, but.
I think you can separate. It was dumb to post, versus it was malicious, and and one thing I'll give kudos to this. I mean, one thing that's come out of this entire scenario of racism, starting with George Floyd, is it's opened my eyes.
Yeah,
my wife and I have watched every documentary on Netflix. He's currently reading, White Fragility. I'm reading. It's an opportunity for all of us to take a step back and realize what's been going on in this world far longer than we've realized.
Yeah. And I think I used to go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I used to cringe when people would say white privilege, and now I realize, fuck, yeah, there is such a thing.
Yeah,
like I didn't know that. I didn't realize that, and talking to my black friends, who's like, hey, when we get pulled over, we're scared. When I get pulled over, I'm like, hey, officer, what's up? And I didn't realize that, and certainly that's not like, hey, it was worth it by any means. But I just hope people will take this time and look at it as my opportunity to improve and change the world.
Yeah, and it was funny because the Me Too movement I looked at as though there was a pylon and an overreaction in a lot of ways. Like, I believe that there's a sexual harassment, sexual assault problem. Yes, I totally believe that exists, and I think women have it difficult and men need to stop. But I did also feel like there was an overreaction. Like, in retrospect, I'm glad there was an overreaction because I feel like the movement is not moving as much now, but the movement made such a difference that, like, I said to a friend of mine, I go, you ever going to say anything wrong to a woman at work? You're not going to say, you're going to think 5 times before you ever say that comment that you might have said to her before. And if you do, you are going to apologize like you've never apologized before, because that shit had to change, and it did change because of that movement. So if anything comes about this movement, and if people go, but it's not that true, and the stats are this way, and the stats are that, and cops they kill more white people than they do. Shut up. And just realize that whatever this movement does, black people in America will be treated better in the future than they were, and they're going to be treated way better than they should have been treated. Like, the way they're being treated is, I don't mean that. I mean, they're getting better treatment than they did in the past, and that's how it needs to be. They're still not going to get what they deserve. So the overreaction is necessary. And I think the overreaction by the people in the CrossFit community at Greg could have been an overreaction, but it's to create this zero tolerance, this we're going to move forward and we better start doing this or we're never going to end this.
Right. It's like you push the scale so far to one direction to hope it comes back and settles in at neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you're trying to say, it's like the goal is that we're getting equality.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy and I were talking about it the other day, and I said, they teach you in golf that you hit a ball, you slice it or whatever. And so you correct it and you end up hooking it the other way. And so then you hit it again and you hit it down the middle. And so maybe we were slicing and now maybe we're hooking, but let's hope we get it down the middle. And so I think CrossFit's going to be like that. I don't want to be all kumbaya, but maybe this is time to rebuild, change for the better. And maybe whatever all the people that de-affiliate and move off and go do their own thing, maybe they create something wonderful too. And it just makes the world a better place. Now you have two options. Now you have the CrossFit option and whatever becomes of that.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing I learned from all this is like we need to have these conversations, these uncomfortable conversations, and listen more, and just understand other people's perspective. It goes back to what we talked about way at the beginning, is just having empathy for other people.
Yeah, and don't feel sorry for Glassman. He's still got probably $40 million, and he's going to be sitting in Hawaii on a beach somewhere just going, I probably should stay off Twitter.
Yeah, the people that are saying, hey, he's got to sell. Okay. He gets $1 million, that he got $50 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's for some people, it's a witch hunt, and people just want to see people suffer.
They want blood. And I remember once they asked him, why won't you sell? And he's like, what's the difference between $1 million and $50 million? He's like, what good is that? He's like, this is what I have. This is my thing. This is what I enjoy doing every day. So if no money or all the money, I still want to do this. And he's had what he loves taken away from him.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So I appreciate you doing the show. What's up with you guys now?
My wife's mad at me for being loud on my earbuds. Everybody thinks only other people are loud on their earbuds, but it turns out you're loud on your earbuds as well. So I've probably been screaming in her ear for the last hour, but
I apologize. It's my fault.
It's all.
And I apologize to the listeners for this COVID thing. I've done all these shows over the internet, so sometimes the Wi-Fi cuts out, and it's not the guest's fault. It's not my fault. It's the coronavirus's fault. So don't.
Corona's messing everything. Have we been cut up a lot?
It came through a bunch of times, but I kind of like paused and let you go through, and they'll be fine. So, it's the show's free, so fuck them. No, I'm just kidding. That's something. Next, he told his audience to fuck.
Well, there's terrible Wi-Fi in all of Boulder County.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a little slow everywhere, but no, just enjoying life in quarantine. I like we said, this is how I want to live my life.
How are you liking Boulder?
I love it. I mean, it was great when it was open and you can go out and do a lot of things, but the weather out here is amazing. And plenty you can do some outdoor activities. It's great.
Yeah, it's the best outdoor place in the world. My buddy Hunter McIntyre was just living out there. And I
worked out with him a couple times at his house.
Oh, really? He's an idiot.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's. I was just on the phone with him today, and he's looking for his next adventure. What he's going to do.
He's a fun dude.
Did you see his Murph?
I did. I was upset, not upset. I really wanted him to do great on it, and he still did great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I was cheering for him to PR. But honestly, I think he overdid his training for it. Really.
Yeah.
I think he probably needed a couple more days off, and I think he had it.
I think he got his head a bit, but I think he could have gone faster. But I think what's good is that he set a mark now that other people can shoot for, and probably next year a bunch of people will break it. And I think there's some games athletes that could hit that pretty, with a little bit of training for it. But that's great because why not? I was saying nobody in this business, for all the workouts that exist, there's really no site dedicated to. If I go into track and field, I can show you the best 100-meter time, the best 200, the best 300, 400, the best shot put, all these things have marks. Why does nowhere in CrossFit do they have a record at Helen, a record at Eva, a record at all these things should have the official record and who holds it?
I think they will when they're done at the games. The problem is I can go do France, my lockout, meaning I don't lock out, and all of a sudden I have the world record. So maybe there needs to be that. That's a great idea, but they need to be judged.
Yeah. Well, that's why I told Hunter, I said, make sure you have someone there filming it. Yeah.
He did, yeah.
Because the guy next to him, his buddy beat him.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But you can't count one of his reps.
Exactly. There's a difference between getting judged on every rep and just doing it alongside of him.
And I think that got in Hunter's head while he was going, that he's ahead of him. And he's like, wait, I'm getting beat right now. But it's like, you're not really. And that's the problem with people cheating. You think you're competing with them, but you're not because they're cheating. So,
yes, exactly.
So, I don't know. I don't think he'll ever try it again. But it was awesome talking to you. I wish we could have done this in person. And weirdly, I drove through Colorado the other day.
Well, next time you're here performing, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully I'll get back to it. I appreciate you taking the time to do the show and being honest. And hopefully we won't have too many people attacking us. My fans are pretty good about that.
It's cool. We got thick skin.
Yeah. So if they want to find you, where's a good place?
Just, Google my name, I'm sure. But on Instagram, the Jason Ackerman.
The Jason Ackerman.
Yeah, Jason Ackerman was taken.
Isn't there another famous Jason Ackerman that's in?
He's a tattoo artist, and he's monopolized all of the Jason Ackermans out there. So I'm the douche now with the Jason Ackerman.
Well, so check him out. It's at the Jason Ackerman on Instagram.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much for doing the show, and we'll see you in the future in whatever world this is that we exist in.
Thanks for having me, Eddie.
Okay. I'll see you, Jason.
Bye.